second half.
Here comes Gooden gonna score the 2 and 1.
Full drive inside. Stop. Hang on a pivot. Turnaround jump shot is good.
Jordan Battle with a nice spin move. Kicks it down low. Fardaws, Big Maple with the finish.
What's up, everybody? It is another episode of the Straight Outta WAC Podcast. CBU week coming up here. I mean, we're recording this on a Friday afternoon, but it's going to be coming out next week as we preview CBU men's and women's basketball in the upcoming 2022-23 season. We got Derryl and Chelsea, as always, here with us, and we also got California Baptist women's basketball head coach Jarrod Olson. Jarrod, how's it going, man?
It's going good. It's a nice day in Riverside today. Not too hot, so yeah, things are going well.
That's good. That's good. How has the offseason been for you so far?
It's been a little chaotic. Obviously, not to just get right to it, but obviously had a lot of turnover on the roster and stuff. So our offseason started really quick and it moved really fast. I think we got things pretty much under control by now, and we got some players. We had some players showing up this week for workouts, and we'll have the whole group here in another week or so, and just getting ready to get started for the next season.
I want to ask you before these two get on you about that whole roster turnover and stuff. Mm-hmm. I want to go back to the WAC tournament. I can't remember if it was a semifinal game or the quarterfinal game. The slap heard round the world that was not called, like you could hear it from the other end of the – like I heard it on press row, and it was in front of I think it was Grand Canyon's bench maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was a semifinal game, I think.
That's wild. What did you say to the official? I have to ask. I asked you at post game that too, but I have to remind the viewers what was said. Like the look.
I think it was, if I recall, I think it was Benny Luna, who is a really good official. He does, he's a pretty big time ref. And I said, Benny, you got to use all five senses, because he goes, I didn't see anything. I said, use all five senses. You could hear it.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I remember press row, we reacted like, how did they not call that one? Yeah, so pretty wild.
It happens.
Pretty wild. Let's talk about your point guard that's been with you for the last couple of years. I know they'll get to the roster turnover, but Elena, a Woman of the Year candidate, or that's what she won.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's been with you forever, and just maybe talk about what she's meant, not just as a basketball player, but as a person as you've got to know her.
Yeah, actually I just texted with her right before we got on this thing. She's coming back to campus next week, so it'll be kind of fun to see her. Ani has been here for a long time, and like you had said, she means a lot to the program. And she means a lot to me personally. She's one of my favorite players. I've just really enjoyed, being able to spend as much time as I have with her. She's my kid's favorite player, so it's like you're with somebody that much. There's times where you kind of love them and sometimes you hate them. And I'm sure she feels the same way. And, I definitely am going to miss, her competitiveness and her drive. She's just one of the most, fierce competitors I've ever coached, and probably the most determined player I've ever coached. She would just try to outwork everybody. And I think that, that's really what made her so great, is she just, no matter what the situation was, she just felt like she could work her way out of it and work her way into success. And it's just a remarkable woman.
I'm going to let these two take over, since they've been kind of co-conspirators, here in the questions they're going to ask you, Jarrod.
Do you guys got like an X-Files t-shirt on, Derryl, or what?
Nope, black t-shirt. That's it.
Okay.
Jarrod, I want to ask you about the fact that, Caitlin Harper, Stephanie Vischer, Josie Williams all landed at P5s for their grad transfer year. What does it say about the quality of coaching and the quality of player development in the WAC that those three can find their way to the P5 level for their grad transfer year?
I think you said it. I think we're doing a good job of recruiting, number one, finding kids that we can develop into really good players. And I think it also says a lot about those girls that did it. I mean, those three girls, like, and how they're able to kind of, they take, I mean, coaching is half of it or a small part of it probably. And just, I know I can speak for Caitlin, and I don't know, Stephanie or Josie quite as well, but I'm just from what I do know, I would think this would be true as well. Just, they're willing to put the work in, just goes to show you that, like, the recruiting stuff in the beginning, it's not really where a lot of people think that their college career kind of ends once they sign somewhere. And really that's where it's just beginning, and the willingness and to put in the work and the commitment it takes to do that just says a lot about those women and the effort that they put in. And I mean, I think that if you asked each one of them, I think they'd be pretty appreciative of the coaching that they got along the way. I think, between Mark, Dan, I think they would, those guys would agree that, like, that the coaches put them in pretty good positions, but I definitely think the girls probably have the most to do with it. I mean, Caitlin coming out of high school only had 2 Division I offers. We were one of them, and we were just transitioning Division I. So, I mean, that's a pretty big leap for her to make. And I mean, she knows she doesn't get there on her own, but at the same time, I mean, she's the one that's putting in the work every day. She's the one that scores the baskets in the game, and there's teammates that help her along the way and coaches that help her along the way, but we're all pretty proud of her. Obviously wish she would have stayed for another year, but that's just kind of the plan that she's on, and we hope she does really well.
A big storyline that we've been following this offseason is the 7 WAC players that entered the transfer portal but transferred to other schools in the WAC. And I would say CBU was more involved with that than really any other school, as you have 2 coming in from the WAC and you lost 1 to another WAC team in GCU. What is, like, the mindset when stuff like that is going down in the conference?
I mean, I would vote against that rule every day of the week. I think we should have a rule against interconference transfers. I think the NCAA, basically just left it up to every league, and every league was just, terrified of being the league that was going to take a firm stance. And so that thing has just kind of got away from everybody. But it is what it is, and that's the rules we're playing with. So everyone's going to try to operate it within those rules. I mean, I know we technically have 2 from the league, Georgia Keogh and Kinsley Barrington. I mean, Kinsley didn't play, she's never played in the WAC. I mean, she's transferring from Southern Utah, and they haven't played yet. So that one feels a little bit different. But it'll be weird seeing Sydney Palma play for GCU. I'm sure it'll be weird for Susie when we play Seattle and Georgia's on the other team, right? I mean, it is kind of a weird thing. I think, like I said, I don't think it's the best thing for our league or for the game, but that's just the world we're operating in, and that's just my opinion. So I think you got to make the best of it, the situation we're in.
Yeah, Joe, I want to ask you about that too, to clarify, like, if you're not in favor of the whole interconference thing, but, like, it's part of the game now. You kind of have to give and take with the transfer portal, right? I mean, that's the way, like you said, the NCAA's kind of set that up for you. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not the one making the rules, but I do, I have to kind of operate within them, and that's kind of how the rules are set up. And so we're just going to do the best we can to put the best team out there, within the confines of those rules. There was not a lot of, nobody really asked for my opinion on that. And so I don't think they probably will care what I have to say about it now either. So.
Jarrod, with the roster turnover, you guys were first in conference offense last year at something like 77 points a game. How hard was it for you to find fits on the recruiting trail to what you like to do offensively? You added Chloe Webb from UCI. You added Kehoe from Seattle, interconference. Those were probably the 2 biggest ones that stood out to me as I was looking at your transfer portal additions this year.
I mean, we just have a brand new team, so it's hard for me to really say exactly how that's all going to come together. I mean, it would just be me kind of like, speculating, honestly. I mean, I think we've got some really good players. How it all comes together will be interesting to see. We're not the only school, the only team in that boat either. I mean, there's just our whole league is just turned upside down. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how, teams come together. And I think that's going to be the biggest indicator of success is just, how quickly a team can kind of gel, and how quickly they can kind of buy into not only what their new coaches are trying to ask them to do, but also just buying into each other as teammates. And I think the team that can get on board with being selfless, and being a part of the team, more than themselves, the sooner you can do that, the more successful your team's going to be. In terms of like the offense and stuff, I mean, I wish I had a better idea of how that's going to work. But my thing is usually just trying to coach a way that's going to give our players the best chance to succeed. And, I don't know exactly what that looks like today, but I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to figure that out sometime between now and the WAC tournament.
And like you both said, you have a pretty big incoming class. Who has really stood out to you in that incoming class, and what do you think the fans should expect from the team in general once they get on the floor in November?
I mean, we haven't really done. We just started doing workouts with the girls this week, so it's really hard to say like who's standing out because we don't even have everybody here. I do know that Trinity San Antonio, who is returning, I mean, she was a freshman last year. Like I would really expect her to have a big year. I mean, I just know from seeing her, throughout the summer, she lives in Corona. So she's close by here. Like I see her all the time. Like she's putting in a lot of work in the gym, and I'd be really surprised if she didn't have a great year, and we got other kids that I think will do really well too. Dorcas Wu is up at the gym almost every day, and she's someone that played limited minutes last year, but I think she's got a shot to be a good player this year. I think, like I said before, I think it's just gonna be interesting to see how it all kind of like comes together. I just don't think any coach that's telling you they kind of got a good feel for that, they're probably just giving you the coach speak, because I think it's really hard this time of year to really know what you've got because you haven't spent enough time together. So I'm just really looking forward to getting into that gym and spending more time with them. We're going to Italy in a couple weeks, with the team, on a foreign tour, which will be a great experience for all of us off the court too. But I think also it'll give us a great opportunity to kind of like come together as a group, as people, as well as teammates and players and coaches. And I think that's going to be a big turning point for our team.
Jarrod, I want to ask you too about that. Like, you get a whole new roster turnover. How helpful is that to be able to go on a trip like that? I mean, where you're together all the time. That's got to be.
I mean, I hope it will be. It's kind of lucky actually in one way. This trip has been postponed twice. We were supposed to go to Spain the first year that COVID struck, and because Ane, our point guard, who we've talked about earlier, like. We were going to go back and play in her hometown and stuff. And so then that got delayed. And the next year we tried to go again, but there were still all these restrictions, so we couldn't go. So we ended up having to switch it to go to Italy this year. And unfortunately, like Ane and, Georgia Dale, Brittany Thomas, they won't be able to go on the trip with us. But I think it will be good for just having a new group. It's kind of like having a mini season, before the season starts. And I'm hoping it just gives us a chance to kind of get to know each other a little bit better and give us a better chance for success down the road. I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be perfect right away, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of
fun. Jarrod, as we wrap the transition, I asked Gary Adcock this at the start of last year, and I'll ask you the same question. What are you going to remember most about the last 4 years? Something off the floor, something, the fact that, you took a roster that was mostly D2 recruiting oriented and turned them into a D1 roster that had one of the best mid-major seasons in history. Just what are you going to remember most about that 4-year period as we wrap the book on this?
Yeah. I mean, I think we had some real peaks and some real valleys. I mean, you touched on the year we went 26-1. I think the biggest thing that'll stick out to me though is the year before. I thought we had that team, and I thought that was going to be the year we kind of broke through. And Brittany Thomas had an Achilles injury that took her out for the entire season, And then I think it was like 5 or 6 games in, Caitlin tore her ACL. And so, I mean, we played the whole, well, I'd say 3/4 of the season with only one person on the team over 6 feet tall. And we really had to scrap things out. And we were actually, I think it was the game after, 2 games after Harper tore ACL, we were playing Stanford, who was #1 team in the country. And it was a 1-point game with a minute to go. We had them. We got called for a moving screen and we ended up losing the game. But like, just kind of like that moment kind of showed me that like we can at least play with the best of the best. And, you know, we didn't win the game, so maybe that somebody could look at that differently. But to me, that just said, hey, you know, if we do things right here at CBU, we're going to have a chance. And that doesn't mean we're going to be the #1 team in the country or we're going to beat them all the time. But like, I mean, we were in the game with the #1 team in the country, and we didn't have a kid over 6 feet tall in the game. And to me, that said a lot about the heart and just the character of the girls we had on the team at the time. And it just gave me a lot of like optimism for going forward. And I think that kind of like, you know, even though we kind of went on a little tailspin after that, like it still kind of showed me like this is what we're capable of. And we're kind of striving for that every day since.
And we've talked about it a little bit, but you do have a pretty young team going into the season. What changes with your with your coaching and with your expectations for the team going into a season with such a young roster?
Well, I mean, to me, it's a little bit less about the age or, you know, the year in school, because we're kind of in this weird, you know, phase where some people are getting that extra year from COVID. So I'm not even really sure if like a sophomore is a sophomore or a junior is a junior or a freshman is a freshman. I don't know, but I do know that we have a lot of new people on our team. And in my experience, in just kind of like starting new jobs or just taking a rebuilding situation, whether it's at CBU or somewhere else, like the #1 thing you got to do is you got to keep things a little bit more simple, and you got to be very clear in what you're saying and what your expectations are. You know, so I mean, we're starting at ground zero. We're just assuming everybody knows nothing, and not trying not to take anything for granted. And hopefully they'll be forgiving, because when you are trying to cover all that stuff right from from square one, you inevitably make some mistakes as a coach and as a leader. But we're just going to get out there and just start with the basics. I mean, we'll probably have to introduce everyone to who's who on the first day, because we'll have a lot of people that may not know who everybody is. And we'll just kind of go from there, and each day will get a little bit better. But I definitely think just keeping it simple and not getting overcomplicated, which I think my assistant coaches would tell you is pretty much what we do anyway. So we should be all right.
Jarrod, I want to ask you about the recruiting pitch now. Now that you can tell players, hey, we can go to the NCAA tournament when we win the WAC now. I mean, how is that's got to be part of your pitch now, right? To get players to come to CBU?
Well, I mean, I think we mentioned it. Yeah. I think it's definitely good. I mean, no question about that. Like, it's definitely was something that was kind of hurting us at times in recruiting. So it's kind of nice to have that monkey off your back. But I think that I don't want to, like, myself personally, and I hope the girls don't forget either, like, you still have to win the games, right? It's one thing to be eligible for it, but I mean, it's really, really hard to make that tournament, you know. And we won the conference tournament 2 years ago. Like, so we've done the work to get there. We just didn't get the reward from it. But I think that's the important thing, is just knowing what it takes to get there and how hard it is to win that tournament. And our league is just even harder than it was the first time we won it, you know. And so I think it's just going to be a great challenge just to put ourselves in a position where we can play for that. And I'm hoping we, at some point in the next couple of years, we have the opportunity to do that, whether it happens next year or 3 years from now, or whenever that opportunity presents itself. I hope we don't take that for granted, because it's a real challenge to actually make that tournament. It's not enough just to be eligible for it. Our goal is to actually play in it.
Talk about challenges. New roster, you haven't really had everybody together yet, but you still have to put together a schedule throughout that time. Like, how does that go for a coach where you're like, well, I don't know what I'm going to have right out of the gate, but I have to put together a schedule? How does that affect you in that way?
Well, because we've been good the last couple of years, there were a lot of teams that didn't want to play against us. I mean, we've played UC Riverside every year I've been at CBU. And just for instance, like this year, they backed out of the game against us. They didn't want to play us. So we had to pick up a game late, which was pretty frustrating. And also we've been encouraged from the WAC and with the new scheduling format, to schedule a little bit more challenging in the non-conference, which we've done. So, I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like in that non-conference schedule, but I know it's pretty challenging. We play a couple Pac-12s, a lot of WCCs. It's a pretty good schedule. So hopefully it's just going to make us tougher. I think that one of the things we did really well Division II wise was just schedule the best teams we could schedule in the hopes of preparing us for the conference. And like I said before, our league is pretty tough. And so we're going to need to have some challenges along the way to prepare us for the WAC because it's going to be tough.
Jarrod, you completed both transitions with CBU, NAIA to 2, NCAA 2 to 1. Yesterday afternoon, it was just announced that Westmont is going to start the NAIA to 2 process. What advice would you have for that staff as they embark on that journey?
Well, I mean, Westmont, you're talking about one of the premier NAIA's, programs in, the entire country. And I mean, Kirsten is like one of the best coaches that I know. So, I mean, I don't know if she needs any advice from me, but I think if I was just to tell her something, it would just be, just do what you guys have been doing and you're going to be fine. And I really think that's true. I mean, you're talking like a really good academic school and a great location with a great coach. I mean, they'll figure that one out pretty easily, I think.
Chelsea, you got the last question here?
There's specifically, I was commentating the game that you guys had at GCU last year, and I remember, even though it wasn't her best game of the season, I was so impressed by Trinity San Antonio, and you mentioned her earlier, and I remember telling Jim after that game, I was like, she is going to be a star in this conference. What was the thought process with recruiting and kind of almost building a team around her, or was she just going to fit in with whatever you end up doing?
Well, I mean, Trinity, she's from, like I said earlier, she's close by, so she's a local player. We were actually, we were recruiting a couple of her teammates previously, and so, I mean, I feel like we kind of stumbled into her a little bit, even though that's a team we would watch pretty regularly, and I thought she was just kind of like a raw, young, raw player at the beginning, but she really works hard and her work ethic has really turned her into something special. She's got all the tools, and it's just a matter of her kind of figuring out when to use them and how to use them and when, what the right time is and stuff like that. And, I mean, I've just been really impressed with her over the summer, just knowing, like what she's doing. And, every time I talk to her, she's coming from a workout or going to a workout. And she's someone that she loves hoops. And I think that that's a huge thing. She's going to put in the time, and she's going to be a great player. I mean, she's fun to watch. I mean, you said it, she can make some spectacular plays. And I think for us, it's a lot of, we know what she's capable of, and we just need to get her to kind of be a little bit more consistent and kind of make those routine plays look easy, so that when she has that moment of brilliance that, that kind of puts you over the top instead of keeping you level. And that's pretty normal of, freshmen. And I expect a big jump from her freshman to sophomore year. So I'm really excited for her. She's actually, I don't know, Derryl, you might know this, but she's going to go try out for the Puerto Rican national team here in about 2 weeks. So I think that would be a great experience for her if she could make that team. I mean, that's we're talking the national team, not like an age group team. It'd be and they've already qualified for the World Championships in Australia. So that'd be a pretty awesome, honor and experience for her too.
Yeah, that absolutely would, Jarrod. I mean, you've seen players in the conference that have had those opportunities. Was it the transfer Seattle got from UCR? I think she was on one of those national teams. Stephanie Vischer was a part of the Swedish system. You can tell what that'll do for a player.
Yeah, I mean, we have another freshman, incoming freshman next year, Filipa. She is from Portugal. She's been playing on the under 17s, under 20s this past year. So I think those experiences are pretty awesome for them. I'm sure there's a lot of pride when you're representing your country, but just being able to play against the best of the best in the world is a pretty cool thing.
Jarrod, I got a last question here as we close out this. We've gone a little bit longer than I thought, but it's been great. I want to know if when I talk to Braden Bell in a couple of days, if his job's in jeopardy when you're done coaching.
Yeah, I'm coming for him, and I definitely think the broadcasting, I'm all for it. Braden and I did a couple men's games on the radio this past year. We had a really good time. I just watch a lot of hoops, so I really kind of get into the media side of it, from time to time. And Braden's been pretty nice to me and let me kind of jump in, when I'm free. And I just have a lot of fun with it. We were talking yesterday about maybe doing a soccer game because he's doing soccer for CBU this year. I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, anytime he lets me on the mic, I just try not to say anything stupid and just try to add where I can because he does a pretty good job himself. And it's a lot of fun.
Nice. That's California Baptist women's basketball head coach Jarrod Olson. Jarrod, thanks for joining us. Have a fun rest of your summer. Enjoy Italy when you get there in a couple of weeks. And we'll all be talking to you in November or October when Media Day happens. And enjoy the rest of your summer, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time and just all the attention you guys give, women's basketball in general. So thank you guys for doing that. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Jarrod. We'll see you at Media Day. Safe travels to Italy.
All right. See you guys.
Eat before me in Italy.
No question, Chelsea. I got you on that one.
Thanks for listening to the Straight Outta WAC Podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other podcasting platforms. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Remember to follow us on Twitter at WAC Hoops Digest and Facebook under WAC Hoops Digest for all your WAC Hoops news and information.